Hello and welcome back to On the Workbench. Today we're going to be replacing the carburetor on a Toro Timemaster mower. This is a 2000, I believe it's a 14 mower. And so I possibly could take this apart, clean it up, but I'm going to choose just going to replace the whole carburetor. Maybe that's the lazy way out. I'll accept it if you want to refer to it as that. And so to get started on this, the first thing I've done is I went ahead and removed the guard. This mower did not originally come with the carburetor guard on it, but I added that afterwards. If you're interested in learning how to do that, I'll put a card up in the corner up here with a video on how to add this plate that I think started about maybe 2016 model year, give or take, on the mower. So I've already removed that, and now the next thing I'm going to do is be able to turn off my fuel by turning the dial here. Now, officially, this mower does not come with this fuel cutoff switch on it. It comes with just a fuel filter here. If there's enough fuel line that I could put the fuel filter and that on it, I would. Ideally, I would have both. I put this on just to make it easier for winter storage. Your mileage may vary if you think that's a good idea or not. The parts you're going to need for this repair is going to be very simple. It's a single part. If you go with the original Briggs & Stratton part, it's going to be number 591137, if you can see that on the screen there. Take the part out of the box. I believe this is made in China. So I'm not sure what the difference is between this and the knockoff versions. And so we have our carburetor. And then buried in with the packaging, we've got two gaskets and an O-ring here to be able to make sure we have our seals, because we're going to have a gasket on both sides. Also pay attention to the spring that's on top. This is one of the critical springs that have had fail on me in the past. And there's a little linkage point here to be able to pay attention to. Hopefully this is already pre-adjusted, so all we have to do is just install it. So we've got our gaskets and an O-ring to be able to install on the mower. The tools that you're going to need to do this repair are going to be pretty simple and basic, and they're as follows. First of all, to deal with any fuel spillage, we're going to want just a really low profile container. I think a sour cream container works great for this. We're going to want a little bit of grease. I like the Super Lube grease for greasing up the O-ring. And then we're going to need an 8 and a 10 millimeter socket, an extension, a ratchet. I think in the 1/4-inch drive is probably perfect for this. You may want a fuel stopper to be able to plug up the line. Preferably, you could be able to drain your fuel tank as well into the sour cream container, or otherwise make sure you've ran out of fuel before doing this. A small pick. Pair of pliers. You also may want some Q-tips or cotton swabs that are the long kind for being able to do any other cleaning. And finally, safety glasses to keep your eyeballs safe, because we do have some springs and we've got fuel. And that's it, pretty basic. So now let's go back to the mower and get started on this repair. And now the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and remove the air cleaner, because all of this is going to come off when we go to remove our parts. All right, so now I'm going to use an 8 millimeter socket to be able to remove the air cleaner assembly. And right back up here is a disconnect on the air cleaner from where that goes for the rest of the engine. We'll set these parts aside. So with the air intake assembly out of the way, I've got a old sour cream dish that I harvest from the kitchen, and I'm going to fit this right under here. It's about the perfect size dish to put in. I already cut out the fuel with the switch, but if you don't have that and you have the regular fuel filter, don't worry, this will work the same. The biggest thing is make sure you don't have too much fuel in here, or make sure you've got a plug. This is a little rubber plug that you can put in, or have a way to be able to cut off the fuel to it. And then I'm just going to take a pair of regular pliers and then loosen the hose clamp on the carburetor. And then I'm going to work it off with the hose like that. I'm just going to put my little plug in it just to minimize the risk of any fuel that comes out. So now before you remove the carburetor, you might want to grab a quick cell phone picture of the linkages here on top. Our new carburetor comes with a replacement for this spring here. It does not include this spring here in the front. And then we also have a linkage to our exhaust valve here and another linkage here that we're going to have to contend with. So a quick picture might make a world of a difference for getting all back together. And be very careful with the spring because that is not included with the replacement. So now to remove the carburetor, I'm going to go ahead and work on the springs. I got that front spring undone. Set that aside. I'll deal with the linkages when I get this off. I'm using an 8mm socket to be able to loosen the fasteners on either side. There we go, linkage is out. Take a look at the carburetor here. This is filthy coming off. Let's look at the back side of it. Looks relatively clean, I think. Also of note, this bracket fell off when the carburetor was removed. We're going to need to be able to save that to be able to put back on. That goes like this, and now we can see where our first gasket goes for repairing the mower. That's going to seat in here. They gave us a new O-ring. And so now it's time to go get the new carburetor and the gaskets and parts. So just looking around at what came off here, what I'm very intrigued with is the fact that I don't have any gaskets on this carburetor. I have no idea why. I'm looking back at the air cleaner assembly, and for some reason there are no gaskets on either of these, which I find to be very weird, unless they melted away or burnt up or something. But that's very strange that there would be no gaskets. And so now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take some long Q-tips and just fish around on here just to be able to see how clean this is inside of my piston bore. And I feel pretty good about that. There's not a lot of gunk and build up there. So we'll go ahead and move on. And now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the orange gasket that's here off and pop that out. This is our old O-ring. We'll take the new O-ring that came with our part. I'm going to use a little bit of super lube to be able to grease the part up. It's always good to make sure your O-rings are nice and lubricated. It'll make a far better seal. And in this case, it should help it stick into place a little bit better. Go ahead and place this bracket over that mount. And now I'm going to take the new carburetor. And the next thing I'm going to work on is trying to get my linkages here all working correctly. In this case here, the orientation is easy to figure out just like it came off. The line here going to your fuel line is going to go backwards, which should help you figure out how the other linkages will connect. There we go. Now we've got our linkages put in, but we need to add our gasket. So here's our paper gasket. I'm going to go ahead and seat that back on the back side here and take one of the bolts that came out to hopefully line this up. Take the other bolt, put it through the part and the gasket. And now all that's together, I'm going to go ahead and work my socket in here to hand tighten this a little bit, get a few threads started before I hook up the ratchet. As far as I'm aware, there's not an official torque spec for this, so I think the answer is going to be just get it good and tight. I'm going to kind of work my torque back and forth to try to tighten it evenly when that gasket gets compressed. There we go. All right, so now we're going to take our carburetor spring, slide it over the top, and then stretch it forward and seat down into that plate in the front. Make sure it gets through the front and the back, and you can see a nice little shepherd's crook there. And then now at this point, I'm going to go ahead and reattach my fuel line, because I've got easy and full access to everything I need there. There we go, that's all attached. So now to add the air cleaner assembly, I'm going to go ahead and take my gasket and lay it on the mating surface. Just like this. And I'm going to stick my bolts through to be able to hold the gasket in place. Just like that. And then now I'm going to try to work the combination of getting this through. And remember, there's that other tube in the back there. And make sure that that gets connected back up. You don't want your mower breathing dirty air. Use our 8mm socket again. Tighten this up. I'm going to double check again that this breather line is connected. I'll reattach my air filter. Good time to inspect the air filter if it's time to clean it up and get you and put a new one on. And now in my case, all that's left to do is to turn the fuel back on, like that. Then now I'm going to reattach this protective plate around the side, putting in the side bolt first. And then the two front bolts to protect this guard. And then we'll swap over to a 10mm socket for our front bolts here. Now clean up your tools and take your mower out for a spin, and you should be hopefully back in business with a nice, clean, brand new carburetor. Questions or comments, put it down in the description below. If you enjoy videos like this, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. I've got a playlist of other Toro Timemaster repair videos that this should be a part of, so check that out if you've got a Toro Timemaster as well. Thanks for watching, and as always, have a great day. Bye.